Have you been hitting that snooze button one too many times in the morning, missing that early wake up to go out for the run, the ride, the gym, whatever it is before work, and you're finding yourself around that 3 o'clock just hitting the wall? We've all been there, haven't we? What I'm talking about is a lack of sleep leading to a lack of energy, motivation, in general, your health as well tends to deteriorate. I alluded on this last week that this week's topic was going to be focused on sleep because if we're talking about trying to better your health and trying to better your fitness, to be honest, I am a firm believer in over 70% of what you do in the bedroom, in terms of sleeping at least, is leading to your results of either your health or in general fitness. To me, they go hand in hand. So yeah, look, this week I spent a bit of time researching and also recording my own. I'm a proud Garmin watch wearer. I've got a Phoenix 6 for those out there counting. I've tracked my own and I've noticed a few habits early on in the week. I think I made a comment on this last week as well in the log that I am feeling a bit sluggish. And I started recording my sleep and I've begun to realize why. I looked into the quality of it. But yeah, look, I have done a bit of research this week into the importance of not just how long you're sleeping, but also the quality of said sleep. I've got a couple articles I'll link in this week's log down in my description over on YouTube. So for those of you who are coming across from any of my channels that I post this on, make sure you have a read of the description if you want to refer to my references. But what I've found, and it's something I already knew, I think, and I think this is something we all knew, is it's not just the length of your sleep. Now, we all operate at different thresholds of how much we need, so this is by no means a blanket rule, but I would assume if you're not getting at least that 7 hours a night, you're not starting off well. I think there's a whole bunch of different studies. I didn't come across these ones. I've just seen them at different points of whatever I browse or read just randomly, or a podcast I've listened to. There's something where and if you're getting less than 7 hours of night of sleep, it's the equivalent of like being a pack-a-day smoker or something like that. Like that's apparently a comparison that's out there. I don't know how true that is, but it is alarming. That's for damn sure. And I would assume we're all around at least needing 7 hours. I myself find I operate the best if it's at least 8. You'll see, I'm going to go into my sleep schedule that's been this week past. I don't live by that rule the best. I should go to bed early so I can get up earlier, basically. And that's something I always struggle with, which, look, it's not the best thing to have. But then we go a bit further than that as well. It's not just how long. So we got to get that right first off. The length, the duration. We got to get that right to have a chance to then look at the quality. And that's what it's really about, the quality of your sleep. And there's a lot that goes into that. First off is understanding the right makeup for you. And that's REM, that's light, and that's deep. So that's the three big things that you can have. And then there's wake moments, there's restlessness, your resting heart rate, your HRV, all this. Like if you're a big Whoop fan, I'm a Garmin wearer, as I mentioned. I've tried the Whoop stuff, not for me. But the big things that go into that is your sleep routine. So we're going to touch on that as well. But what I found this week through a bit of research was sleep and physical recovery are just absolutely hand in hand. If you want to recover well, you're going to have to care about your sleep schedule. Your sleep essentially functions as your recovery device. You know, if you're talking about, oh, I've got the massage gun, I've got the Normatec leg boots, blah, 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 blah. If you're not sleeping right, none of that junk matters. It actually is literally junk at that point. If you're sleeping 4 hours a night because you want to burn the midnight oil or you're just so busy, guess what? The tech don't matter. Essentially what ends up happening in your sleep is you end up producing slow wave sleep. SWS is what it's called, which is strongly believed and linked to be an aid to physical restoration. So slow wave sleep is what you really need. And what that alludes back to is deep sleep. Now that is the superpower to recovering your muscles and up here, because this is a muscle as well, your brain. Sleep deprivation and injury risk as well. I've touched on that in my opening, but these are, like I said, there couldn't be anything worse for you than undersleeping. So poor sleep is a precursor for injuries, including mental injuries like a concussion, for example, or maybe some mental health issues, but etc. Like I'm not going to go too much into that. I'm not well researched into it, but it definitely will lead to a risk of injuries. And that's been proven. There's been scientific studies, which I'll link below, particularly from the American side. I can't remember exactly what they refer to their departments of health, but the Americans do a lot of research into this. So it has been proven lack of sleep leads to risk of injury, and injury in muscle groups in particular, which is mental and also physical muscles. Well, not that your mental isn't a physical muscle, it is. The other thing to touch on is your immune functionality with sleep as well. So this is where it literally will affect your health. So lack of sleep will lead to a decrease in immune health. Adequate sleep will lead to an increase into a well-functioning immune system. Anything that disrupts your pattern in sleep will definitely, absolutely lead to a increased recovery time. And also you're going to find yourself, like, if you ever, I think the best way to give you a touch on this whole idea is that you ever got that friend that seems to be battling a cold for 2 or 3 weeks? Have a chat to them about what their sleep schedule's like, and not just lately, the last 3 months, the last 6 months. There's going to be some intel there. I can't preach on it enough, but above all else, sleep will cure a lot of issues for people, and it'll also lead to more motivation. And the best thing for me, at least, is it will lead to better results in whatever fitness activity you're trying to do. And the last thing I want to touch on regarding this topic is your cognitive functional performance. Because your brain is literally a muscle group, it requires sleep just as much as your legs, your arms, your bis, your tris, whatever it is. It requires it just as much, if not more so. And it requires more of that makeup, the deep sleep, the REM, the light sleep. Definitely needs REM and it needs deep. So deep's going to repair your muscle groups the most. REM is great for memory recollection. So, and decision making, all that kind of great stuff. So that is where we go into now the quality of your sleep. And I'm going to use me as the guinea pig here. And we're going to swing across to my Garmin view here. So hang on a second. We'll just quickly get this set up. There we go. All right. So what we're looking at here, just quickly, and I'll shrink me down. There we go. I'll get the bar out of the way. We're looking at my general view on Garmin. Now, I haven't shared this one just yet in these logs because it's not one I've looked at too much. I only really use Garmin Connect. One, it's not the best UI. It's definitely gotten better. This is newer than it's ever been. But I typically only use it to look at sleep. That's the main thing I look at here. So the in focus, this one. A little bit body battery. I did a Zwift ride, as you can see. So I'm on the decline at the moment. But overall, we're looking at this number here, so sleep. So last night is a good example of a bad sleep. I had a good duration, that's for sure. And I had really good REM. So mentally, I'm definitely clued in. If I can tell you, on the bike, I was a bit sluggish. And right here, you can see my deep sleep, an hour 2. Considering, you'll see a bit in a moment, and the training I've been doing, and you'll kind of get why I felt sluggish on the bike. This isn't adequate for the kind of training I'm doing. The amount of light sleep, yeah, that's fine. REM, that's brilliant. That's a good number. Anywhere above 2 for me typically really tickles the right threshold. And the duration, well, can't beat it. 8 hours and 40 minutes is very, very nice for me. Now, if I go a bit back, I have a couple good examples of better sleeps for me. Night before, and I performed really well on the bike this day as well, so I'm going to link that across to my training peaks and my Strava. But the night before, I slept really well, so I got really good deep sleep, an hour 26, no stress, really good duration, pretty good REM, pretty good light. overall, this is the kind of sleep I'm after. So really trying to hit these numbers are deep in comparison an hour two. So this is what I mean. Like, you're talking about finite margins, getting this stuff right. But an hour two to an hour 26, that is the difference of how I felt on the bike today. And we're going to swing across just to see a real world of what that even means. So I've got a ride here to show, and now I've got another ride from today to show. So the ride I did yesterday, I'll preface this with one thing just to save my own face. I haven't always tracked power on Strava, but I did set, since I have tracked power on Strava, a 1 hour PB at 360 watts. I think my PB is a little bit more. I don't know exactly what it would be. But I did the Tour de Zwift Stage 4 up Von 2, or Von Top as it's called over there. I won. I managed to break away from a couple OG Zwifters I've raced against before, and I set a 58 minutes up from the start pens to the finish line, which is, yeah, for me, never gone close to that number. Well, it's my third best, but not recently. Like 4 years ago, when I was about 60 kilos or 65 kilos, something ridiculous, I've been able to hit those numbers. So there's no coincidence. The training I've been doing, if I go over to my training peaks, just to give you a bit of insight to what I've been doing, so we'll scroll through. I've been riding every day bar one this week. This week I rode a bit. I don't think my data's come across. No, I did have 2 rest days, but I definitely rode on the weekend, so that's not come across. But yeah, I've been riding predominantly. What I'm trying to show at least is every day with 1 rest day. For a period there, I did a full week. So I did 2 full weeks in a row, made up for 2 rest days I had there on that one. But this is across a long period now. Like, I've been doing very consistent training because, as I've said already, it's pretty clear, but I'm trying to win Tour de Brisbane. My training's been very good. So overall, the shape I'm in, the fitness level I'm at, I'm in good stead. I should be able to produce the results like this. This didn't really come as a surprise, except it kind of did, because I haven't been sleeping the best, is what I'm kind of going to keep linking this back to. I went into it because the day before I didn't feel the best. The Friday I didn't do too much. If we go back actually and take a quick look at that, if I swing back to January here, so not the Friday, the Thursday I didn't even ride. I didn't feel very good. I even said to my partner when I came home, I just can't be bothered today. I had one of those. I couldn't be bothered. I didn't even run. I just had the day off. And that was, if we go back and take a look, that was this day. So I had an 81 score. Not the best for me. The duration was fine. The stress was okay. Look at the deep. It was 30 minutes. The light was okay. The REM for me, not very good. Like I said, I like 2 hours. I've noticed a trend since I've tracked my sleep. I like 2 hours. I tend to do really well mentally. So 2 big things went wrong that day. The deep and the REM failed me. And look what happened the 30th. Nothing. Didn't ride. And I meant to do Thursdays, not Fridays, as my rest day. No, sorry, the other way around. I meant to do a ride on Thursday and have Friday as my rest day. But this is also another good point of listening to your body. I don't think looking into the data too much and then making a decision based off that for your training is wise. It's more a feel for me. I'm a big believer on feel over the numbers at least. And I just made a call. I just come home and went, you know what, irregardless what the data says, I ain't feeling it today. I'm not going to produce my best. And I think what I'm going to hammer home towards the end of this log is, if you're going to make commitments to training and wanting to be your best, doing things like this, your sleep, getting this right, and also your diet, insight to a future topic, you owe it to yourself, really. That's kind of my big takeaway for this week that's going to sum everything up is, if you're committing to doing better and being better, you owe it to yourself to do the maintenance or the incidentals correct. So I touched on last week doing strength work and prepping your body. Well, this is about recovering your body correctly and your mind, so you're actually in a state where you can get the maximum out of yourself, and that is the power of sleep in general. So yeah, there's a real world example of me not having the best sleep on the 30th there. Wasn't the best the day before either. This one was just after a very hard session, but you can see on the Wednesday there I did 2 rides on Zwift at least. I had an alright ride, not the best. I did okay in this one. I think I won, but I wouldn't sum it up with my absolute best stuff. You can see I did 327 for one lap there. I did an 1851 up that Innsbruck column. I sat on 353 on the way up, but you can tell on 378 on the second lap's pretty decent as well. But I had a better ride on the Friday, and I keep going back to the data. The ride I had on the Friday, so the sleep I had was a 92. These aren't coincidences. This is just how sleep impacts what you're going to do. And I could even tell you, like the work I did, the quality of the work I did at my actual job would have been better on Friday versus that Wednesday. And same for the Thursday, that's for sure. We keep winding back through the week. I raced ZRL, so if you don't know what ZRL means, I'll probably mention it a bit. It's like an elite level race series on Zwift where quite a few esport pros, believe it or not, that's now an actual word in the world of cycling. And I had a pretty decent sleep, and I actually performed much better than I thought I would. It was my first time racing that series in about, I don't know, 4 years. And overall, I had a pretty decent sleep, although I wasn't the best in my deep. But everything else kind of ticked the right boxes. So if we go back to the Friday, so when I had a very good ride, which was this ride here, we're going to link these two together. But an hour 26 deep. So what I'm trying to show right now is finding the right metrics for you. I should preface that. That's what I'm trying to show. So what went into a pretty decent ride, I would give myself an 8.5 out of 10 for this ride here. And this is what went into it the night before. So hitting the boxes of duration, always above 8 hours for me. It's the magic number to give me a chance at having these correct underneath it. Not much stress. My deep hit the right numbers in hour 26, not bad. I think I tend to do better at hour 30, but hour 26, not too bad. Light in a good numbers around 5 hours 6. A little bit less light's important. You don't get as much benefit out of light. But REM and hour 47, very nice. 2 hours for me, like I keep saying, REM is a bit better. So less light, a little bit more deep, a little bit more REM, I think is what I need. But overall, not too shabby. One thing to touch on is my resting. It was a little high for me. I'm floating around 40, 38 at the moment, somewhere around there, but not the worst. And my average HRV was a little bit high as well, but not too bad. Just early signs of fatigue creeping in. That's all that is. And then to look into data, the data of what then preceded said sleep, what set me up basically. Well, yeah, I set 361 watts for 58 minutes and 50 seconds. Not too shabby, especially when you're weighing 77 kilos. I've lost another kg now. So yeah, all up, I can't stress it enough how important sleep was to produce this. 164 HR as well. I wasn't maxing out. I would assume with that HR, so I could go another 30 beats, I would say, for that time. I can sit around 190 for around an hour. It hurts, but I can do it. But overall, that means I've probably had maybe close to 400 in the tank, somewhere at least a 380 to 400 in that window. I don't know exactly where, but somewhere around there. So that's real world proof right there of just a good sleep producing much better watts than in comparison that other ride that I was showing here. Not that this is bad. I was happy with this as well, but this gives me confidence I'm on track for Brisbane. This tells me I'm on track to get Group 1 at Brisbane. And I think the takeaway I've been saying is if you want to be winning and doing the best of you, then these are the rides you're after. I'm not so much after these ones. Overall, though, how the training's been going, to touch on quickly, well, yeah, it's pretty good. You can look at January there. I'd got 36 hours in, almost 1,300 Ks. Just today, the ride I'll touch on, I didn't feel the best in. Again, let's take a little look into why. Oof, not the best. Oh, HR's up. Oh, HRV's a bit low, actually, for me. I'm around 45 is a typical number for me. But all in all, the HR was pretty low. Fatigue's probably creeping in a little, just something to probably keep an eye on. But these are all things that, I'll keep sharing as I notice how I'm reacting to different training I'm doing at the moment. To give a bit of a snapshot into the type of training I'm doing at the moment, I'm just going to quickly cruise through, probably since the start of December is a good timing, I reckon. So I'm doing around 9 hours, bit low there, only 6 hours 21, 11 hours to try and make up for that 9 hours, 12 hours, almost 13, back to 8 because I think the fatigue crept in a little bit. Then back to 4 hours 15. I think this is the week I went to TDU from memory. Then back up to this week will be 9 hours 19. And then this week, I've still got tomorrow to go. So I'm recording this on Saturday. But I'll probably get to around that 9 hour mark once again. So I'm cruising around the 9 hours at the moment. Average TSS. So TSS is how stressful the work is that I'm doing. So around 421 this week, 615. So I'll probably get similar number again. 306, that was a lighter week. 538, so a bit harder. 722, very hard. 493, 369. So I'm sitting around the 4 to 5 kind of typical stresses. And in terms of how I structure my weeks, because I did my big bit on the first log I did of what's the point of zone 2, but how I typically structure my week. So I'll just show you this week to give you an example. Well, these are all my planned rides, so we'll quickly skim back up. This week, we started with some of my strength exercises. They're road boxes. Don't ignore that. I need to stick to my word and start doing my strength exercises. But I had an hour on Zwift planned, and I did manage to get, that's 58. Okay, so I got a touch over an hour. But overall, nothing too difficult. So I did a stage 4 ride of the Tour de Zwift, the short one, but I didn't do too hard. 34 TSS for 38 minutes. That's on the conservative, easier side. And then I did 8 TSS for around 20 minutes and 9 TSS for another 20 minutes. Then I did a very hard ride on Tuesday. So Mondays at the moment for me look like that. A pretty easy, at least an hour, but pretty easy. Nothing too difficult. Try to keep the HR for me a max of 206, remember? Try to keep the HR below 150. Don't see 150 on the ride. That's the goal. Simple. I keep my training as simple as I can sometimes. Then I did a race, that ZRL one, so 79 TSS for 48 minutes. So TSS is a score out of 100 across an hour. I couldn't have gone too much harder, basically is what that one is. Set some PRs as well by the looks of it. If we have a look at the normalized, it was 383. That was a bit beefy. I set my minute all-time power. Oh no, my minute power for 2025, sorry, of 574. That is rather high for a guy that's not very punchy. And I did a little cool down, I think a warm up just before actually. So that was just to add to a bit of the load. On Wednesday, I did that standard ride, that one around Innsbruck. I kind of use this now. I don't typically do this on a Wednesday. I'd stick a longer zone 2 ride in here for endurance with a couple zone 3, maybe low zone 4 kind of efforts in there. But I wanted to just see how I would respond to a really hard day, because throwback to when I was racing, that was my strength. And I did pretty well until the next day when I had a poor sleep and didn't feel the best, and then I had the day off. And then I had a great sleep on Friday and felt really good on the bike and really posted some nice numbers. So Thursday would typically be this ride. Wednesday, probably a little bit easier, maybe slightly longer, but not too much easier. I'm not trying to do too much zone 2. I don't have 30 hours to train in a week. I've got 9 or 10. Friday for me, typically the rest day. Saturday is a longer ride, at least an hour and a half. I should be getting 2 hours, and I ideally am outside, but I slept in, so shame on me. Actually did a little run this morning, so can't count that too much. And then on Sunday, I try to go outside. I won't tomorrow. It's actually my birthday, so I'll probably just ride on Zwift in the Arvo at some point. But I am running roughly on that schedule. So Mondays, very easy, low heart rate, so below 150 for me, at least an hour. That's it. If I tick those 2 boxes, I've done enough. Tuesday, very hard. That's my biggest effort day of the week. Wednesday, a pretty hard ride, at least an hour, 10 hour, 15 on the bike. But I try to make it so there's a couple efforts in there. Just some stuff that scratches the surface, keeps the legs switched on, is kind of the idea behind that. Thursdays is another really hard ride, some VO2 work. So I don't typically do workouts like structured stuff, but I would just do either a race, or I would just pick a random route on Zwift, or if I'm riding outside, I'd pick a couple random hills and I'd ride them at least 450 watts. That would be my goal, and just do it for at least 5 minutes. That's it. Something like that. Try and get 2 or 3 of those efforts in. Saturdays and Sundays are just like mid to high zone 2 rides. So if I rode outside today, for this ride I should show, but I averaged 272 normalized. Yeah, I think it was around 250 actual average, wasn't it? Yeah, 250. So that's what I would have replicated on the road typically. Try to keep the HR pretty steady as much as I can, and I do roughly the same on Sunday. So just volume, that's all that is. Um, you can see here, there's not much zone 2, realistically. This and these two are my zone 2 rides. The rest of the week, so that's a zone 1 ride, that's VO2. That's not zone 2, the ride on Wednesday, that is very much a lower, but still an effort ride, so there's efforts in there. Thursday's a VO2 ride. Friday's recovery, and then I'd have 2 days of zone 2. So if I've got 9 to 10 hours in a week, I'm doing around probably 35% at zone 2. And then the rest of my week is either recovery or it's VO2 work. So I'm a big firm believer of do the work that you have hours for. But first and foremost, get yourself fit so your body's not going to get injured. And then really focus on, okay, how many hours have I got and what's my goal? And then start to actually couple in a little bit more logic. I would easily get roasted for this kind of training, I'm sure. But look, I'm a bit old school. I don't like being too structured. It makes me feel too scientific. And I'm not trying to be a world tour rider, so I don't need to be prescribed stuff. I'm a self-motivator. Like I like setting myself training, so this tends to work. But the big thing is, like I showed, so I've been doing this about since the mid-November timing is when I've really ramped this back up. And then December was really good. January is really good. Hopefully Feb's the same. March and then into April, I've got my actual event. But the biggest thing to make sure I can always keep hitting those Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sundays is sleep. If I can get a good 8 hours with at least an hour 30 deep, at least 2 hours of REM, I could easily knock out maybe more VO2 work. Without that, your body's not recovering, essentially. So for me, I'm just sharing what works for me. Everyone's numbers are a bit different to that. But as long as I can hit those kind of targets, it's proven to work for me. I'm pretty deep into a few training blocks now. I'm starting to produce really good numbers. I don't do anything special. You know what I mean? I don't do anything really structured on the bike. But in that ZRL race I did, I was dropping people who do very structured work. They have got a coach and they're paying, for prescriptions, all this kind of crazy stuff. All I do is just the basics, right? So for me, not to understanding the makeup of hours I've got and maximizing what I've got, but making sure my body's ready. So for me with the bike, it's all about sleep. Me with running, you'll see much more later in the year when I'm preparing for that. It's all about the exercises and stretching and sleep still. But for me with the bike, the easiest thing to make sure I'm going to be able to perform is simply sleep. It's like getting a quant to do good mathematic work for you if you're in finance. All they got to do is get some good sleep. Then this is going to be on and they're going to get you some pretty good ROI, I'd imagine. But yeah, that's been it for this week, guys. I can't hound it home enough how much sleep is a powerhouse. I honestly believe 70% of your health is down to how you're sleeping. The rest is heavily made up of diet. And then the rest after that is, are you exercising? Are you looking after your body a bit? Are you moving? Are you getting going? But if you're not sleeping enough, you're not even going to give yourself an actual chance to do any of that. All right, guys, till next week.